Oh, another show, you say? Wish granted. Eureka 7's coming in at 1:30.
Now we're gonna see something really good.
Cute weird girls, more giant robots, and another 7. Get ready for the lucky 7s.
What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Sho, back with another video, and today we are back with another remaster versus remake. Now in this series, I like to go back and revisit, animated that's a little bit older and see if it holds up to this day, and basically see if I would say it needs a remaster or it needs a full-on remake. I've already done shows like Zash Bell, I've done Hitman Reborn, and this series is kind of new, but I like really doing it because I like going back and looking at some older anime. All right, today we're looking at Eureka 7. Now, to be honest, I do not know how to pronounce this. I know in the anime they say Eureka or something like that. I always call it Eureka 7. So I'm gonna say Eureka 7 for the rest of this video. If I'm saying it wrong, I apologize, but this is always the way I kind of interpreted it. Now, I gotta say it, I really used to love this anime back in the day. Now, it was on Toonami. It originally came out in like 2006. And it eventually came and returned in 2012. Let's talk about Toonami for just a second. Now, Toonami was basically a staple back in the day. If you were young and you liked anime, you were basically like me, you probably watched an unhealthy amount of anime back. Like, I would love watching Dragon Ball Z and Naruto and all these different anime that would come on and all these different nights and stuff. And it, to me, was something so different. It really shook up my whole mentality. Because me watching like cartoons and, really seeing how anime could be different. Like, cartoons is one thing. You may have something like Sonic X, where it's a really good show, but there's really no stakes, there's no high stakes. And you go watch Naruto and you see Lee and Gaara fight, and you see Gaara crushing Lee's leg and stuff, you realize the anime is really the real thing. But for some reason back then, I always skipped mecha anime, and even a little bit after Toonami, I'd always skip mecha anime. Like, I would never like watching mecha anime. I felt like they were unoriginal. Seeing how there was always Gundam, I felt like the whole mecha thing was just like a copy, but I didn't realize how different it could actually be. And one night I ended up falling asleep, and I woke up, and when I woke up, the first thing I heard was the Eureka 7. Oh, the first opening of Eureka 7 was crazy. And from now on, I think it was like episode 3 or 4 or something like that. From now on, I just basically started watching the whole entire anime. Now, of course, the opening was so good to me, I became more of a fan of mechas. You know what I'm saying? That eventually led me to watch stuff like Code Geass and Gurren Lagann and stuff. And to be honest, it really just wasn't the opening. I really like the visuals, everything as far as like the opening music, the song, the visuals, everything just kind of caught me. And I was like, you know what? I'm wide awake because I'm really rested because I fell asleep and I woke up. Why not just watch this episode? I watched the episode and it was a really good episode. I can't even remember what it was, to be honest now, but it was a really good episode. I really liked the mechas and stuff in it. Now, let's actually back up, because I'm going to talk about the show, but I had to give you guys a good little plot synopsis of the show and what the show is about. So let's roll it on back and go back to the plot synopsis to really talk about what this show is about. Now granted, this show is kind of old in a sense, and I'll give my verdict on whether I feel like it should be remade or remastered at the end. But as far as the plot goes, it's a little bit out there, to be honest. It seems simple enough, but if you're watching this as a kid, it's kind of like, oh man, this is really good, but some things I don't really understand. I ended up watching it as an adult a little bit later on, and it made a little bit more sense as an adult. Alright, so the series focuses on Renton Thurston. He's a 14-year-old son of Adrock Thurston, a military researcher who died saving the world. It may sound like I'm reading this off a box. It's normally because when I make videos, I like to do it off the dome, with maybe like a little bit of light research, just to make some of the facts straighten up or whatever. But honestly, I watched this so long ago, and the plot is kind of all over the place from what I remember as me watching it when I was young. And being that I like to rely on memory with shows like this to kind of really convey my feelings of nostalgia, I just decided to do a little bit more research this one time, just simply because of the way that the story is actually structured. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and go back to the little robotic plot synopsis. Now, he lives a boring life, with his grandfather in town. His grandfather's basically a mechanic. He loves lifting, which is a sport that's kind of like surfing and stuff. It's like it's really hard to explain in a sense. If you've seen the show, which I'm pretty sure you watched it, you might have seen the show. But basically, it's like basically surfing on the air. If that's a way to kind of explain it. It's like there are waves in the air, and that's actually a very, very big plot of the show too. He ends up joining a renegade group known as the Gecko State, led by his idol Holland, who is a legendary surfer. They say lifter in this little description, but I changed it to surfer because it's more relatable. Opportunity to do so falls in his lap when a large mech called the Nirvash Type 0 and Eureka, his pilot and member of the Gecko State, crashed into his room. His grandfather orders him to install a special part in the Nirvash called a meter drive, which releases an immense power dormant within the Type 0 called the Seven Swell Phenomenon. Afterwards, Ren 10 is invited to join Gecko State, where he quickly discovers that behind the scenes life of the Gecko State is hardly as glamorous as he thought it was, and not as glamorous as is printed in their very famous magazine called The Rayout. Only one thing makes it worthwhile for him: Eureka, the mysterious pilot of the Nirvash. Renton and Eureka and the Gecko State embark on an adventure that will shape their future as well as the world. Alright. So with the board part over, I want to say not too long ago I actually started watching it over again. Like I decided just to, you know, give it a refresh, a retry in my mind, because I had Funimation and I wasn't watching anything else. So why not watch an animated? I don't remember that well. I made it to the end of season 1. I realized that the anime, like the way I look at this anime specific, it changes with how older I get. You know, the more older I get, I start to look into like deeper meanings between the episodes and stuff, even if there may not be deeper meaning. Like I may look for a purpose in an episode and there's no purpose. It's kind of refreshing to go back and watch anime at a different light, at a different age, at a different mind. You know, that way you can kind of, you know, refresh yourself. Like it's kind of refreshing to look at it from a different perspective. But let's talk about characters though. All right, now first of all, we gotta start with the main character. I mean, I guess you could say I still don't know how to pronounce it. Eureka is the main character, but you know, to be honest, Renton is technically your real main character. Like Renton is the kind of main character that I was pretty sure, I was positive I would just end up hating. But to be honest, I actually liked him. I actually liked his character. You know, his love for Eureka. I'm gonna stop saying Eureka because there's no L in this word. I'm gonna say Eureka. His love for Eureka. I know that's wrong, but it just sounds better to me. His love for Eureka is kind of interesting, to be honest. You know, he sees her as a girl that basically saved him from his dull, mundane life. You know, his life that he was going to be leading with his grandfather and stuff. You know, the life that he just didn't want. He was trying to break out of it. But, you know, with her coming and Gecko State coming, you know, it kind of allowed him to work out of his shell. And to be honest, like that correlation is kind of, you know, it's kind of relatable for me. You know, as an adult working an actual 9-to-5 job, it's like, you know, you want to end up doing something different, a little bit more exciting and fun. And it doesn't always work out that way. But if you can somehow, you know, change your lifestyle to where you can do something like that, it'll make life a little bit more interesting. That's why I do YouTube. You know, wishing I had a more exciting job kind of hits home for me. All right, next up, Holland. To be honest, Holland, to be truthfully honest, when I was watching it as a kid, I honestly couldn't stand Holland, but I just felt like Holland was a little bit boring to me. Like I didn't really necessarily like his character all that much. And it's not to say that he was a terrible character. I just feel like I couldn't understand some of the complexities behind his character. But as I grew up and I started watching it, you know, from watching it again and such, I started to understand Holland a little bit more. Started to respect Holland and, you know, his commander of the Gecko State, to be honest. You know, he's the leader of the Gecko State. And I don't really want to specifically spoil his backstory of the events he was involved in before they met Renton, because, you know, I do want you guys to watch it if you haven't seen it. But to be honest, it hits a little bit on a better note now that I can see it from objective eyes. All right, next up, Eureka or Eureka, or however the crap you say her name or the show name. But to be honest, her character in general, there are certain events that I kind of want to beat around the bush with. Her character kind of devolves into like a character, not necessarily I don't like, but I really couldn't care for later on. Like the beginning character is more fun and, you know, it's like caring and stuff, and it's not saying that the character it turns bad later on. It's just specifically they chose to go something right with her character that was interesting, to say the least. I'm really trying to talk in circles here, but you guys know what I'm talking about if you watch the actual show. But to be honest, I like Eureka. I'm gonna say Eureka. I feel like that's the way they said it in the dub I watched not so long ago. I don't know where they get the L from. Now I can finally understand, like watching the YouTube video and then the person can't get the name right. But all in all, I mean, the character's cool. the Nearboss in itself is cool. I guess I could count that as a character, because the Nearboss is like a living organism type thing that is, you know, also basically a Gundam. So that in itself is really, really interesting. To be honest, other than that, most of the other characters are kind of not necessarily side characters. You got like Moondoggy, which is my favorite character. There's nothing really interesting to say about Moondoggy. He's just, his name is Moondoggy. And you got Taoho, is basically like the mother of the ship in a way. Not necessarily the mother, but she's the main love interest for Holland, and it's kind of like a they're together but they don't talk about it type of thing. A lot of relationship drama in this actual anime. But like I said, I didn't really understand any of that when I was younger. So for me, the anime hit harder as an adult than it did as a child. And I gotta say, you know, to me, we're at the end of the video right now, because I want to talk about a little bit of characters. I want to talk about, well, let's talk about the world real quick. The world in itself is actually interesting. To be honest, I never really was a fan of the world building in this anime. Not said it wasn't good, because it did have world building, but I didn't ever actually watch the movie. If you guys don't know, there's actually movies out now. I didn't realize this until just recently that there were actually movies out, so I might be really, really behind. But there are apparently movies out in which you can go and watch like a continuation of the story. Now there's also a sequel called Eureka 7 AO. Personally, they went the route of just kind of like, normally when you have a sequel to a show, right, or if a show goes on for too long, it can cause issues, because as a reader, as a watcher, you want to look at your characters, you want to be like, oh, you know what, that character is interesting. I like these two characters together, or you know, I like the way that this character is in the story. But in order to progress your plot, you have to do something kind of drastic, kind of tragic to your characters. And in AO, they kind of do something drastic to the characters in Eureka 7, to be honest. So it's like, it sucks. You know, you get to have this nice new fancy character that may be like an offspring. It's just like Boruto. The rule of Boruto is that it was rumored that Naruto's gonna die. There's a good possibility that later on in the show Naruto's gonna die. And why? Because Boruto really can't shine unless Naruto dies. But then again, he probably could, because as of right now, Boruto is probably stronger than Naruto with the current nerf. But that's just a normal plot device. If you have a sequel taking place after a series, it's obviously gonna have issues with power leveling and stuff, and it's also gonna have issues with doing things to the main character, so they can't really interfere into the plot of the young main character. So I don't really want to spoil too much, because honestly, if you want to watch it, I just say watch it. It was cool. It had some really cool moments, but if you really are stuck on the main characters doing better, then I wouldn't watch that. Now, like I said, I don't really know what the movie has entailed, so that's going to be interesting to see. But we at the end of the video finally, and it's time to get my verdict. To be honest, I already knew what my verdict was going to be. I would honestly probably take a remaster for this one. This actual anime holds up really good in my opinion. It holds up really good. You know, I ended up watching it. It's not that old, but it's kind of old. But I ended up watching it, and I was thinking that a remake honestly would be cool, but a slightly remaster, like if you just kind of remaster the visuals and stuff, I would actually probably still buy it and you know, buy it on DVD and such. I would honestly still enjoy it. Not everything needs a full remake. There are some anime that need a full remake. Like the Himmer one video I made needs a full remake. But other than that, guys, I've had an enjoyable time making this video. Eureka 7 is one of my favorite anime. Honestly, when I watched it about like 3 times in my life. I watched it when I was really young and it was on Toonami. Not necessarily really young, but younger, and it was on Toonami. I watched it as an adult. I watched it all the way through as an adult, like a young adult, and I thought it was one of the greatest anime I've ever seen. And I've watched it recently as an older young adult, and it was cool. Watching it from these 3 different perspectives were kind of. Right now, you can catch Eureka 7 on Funimation, if they still even has a site anymore with this video. I don't know how old this video is going to be to you. But I want to thank you guys for clicking on this video, you know, and appreciate you guys for coming through. Let me know what other anime you want me to do, like a remaster or remake video on, like maybe an older anime, maybe the anime that you feel like is really, really good. I'm gonna start getting into a little bit more obscure stuff. I would honestly say like Zashbell and Eureka 7 is kind of obscure, but I'm talking about like some really, really obscure type stuff. I have another one in mind right now that I'm thinking about doing, but if you want me to do a specific one, drop me down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next video. スタープラチナざまやれやれだぜ